So this one's going to be an interesting one to talk about, as my camera apparently doesn't know how to fucking focus. Oh my god, is that my camera not focusing, or is that me not? That's the problem with having kind of shitty eyesight. You don't know if it's your camera fucking up on you, or if it's you. Give me 1 second. I'm going to attempt to adjust that on the fly, and then cut it out. Right. Because autofocus turned back on. That's what that was. Because of course. Okay, sorry about that. Hopefully now we won't have any focus issues. Issues with the camera being out of focus and crap. Anyways, which is funny because that's actually a complaint I have about the gang in this episode. Focus, you morons! Focus! Stop being fucking stupid. Hate it. Absolutely hate it. Anywho, about a page and a half of notes. So let's get the stuff that basically gave the dub the points this week. Just get those out of the way right now, so that everybody can hate me. Because yes, this is another two-parter where the dub won. Despite that final scene, the only scene that, in my opinion, is better in the sub is that final scene. That final scene is brilliant. Brilliant in the sub, and not that great in the dub, I admit. But the big problem is that I expect incompetence in the dub. The gang are less incompetent in the dub. And it really does feel like a because plot. We need Mokuba to be kidnapped. So we have Nesbit kidnap Mokuba so that Noah can intercept him, call it cheating, and take him. Even though, spoilers for next episode, he's going to be under mind control, and then there's what happens during his duel, but I digress. Yes. The dialogue is also kind of crap in the sub. I'm just going to be blunt. And hell, even Mokuba kind of is like, what the fuck? Oh, my brother's going to duel? You do know what the fucking stakes are, right? You do know why you're here, right, Mokuba? You do remember what the Big Five are after, right? Whatever. Ugh. There is a couple of interesting points, but for the most part, it is just the incompetence of so many of the characters that just. It's basically everybody but Seto is a fucking moron in the fucking sub, literally. And it just pisses me off. So yeah, this is of course the one where he goes up against Lecter, aka Daimon. Excuse me. The last of the Big Five. Of course, he's fighting against Jinzo with the whole Injection Fairy Lily and life point increasing combo. We'll talk about that a bit later, but so then of course there's the whole backstory with the whole Seto betraying Mokuba thing, which is just I like they never fully state whether or not Mokuba is right. Hey, sub Mokuba is right in the flashback that he was just having an off day because everybody can have an off day. Or whether Daimon is right and he was actually leaking the information. Now, it's very possible. It's very possible that I've always felt very strongly about this. I always felt like Seto was more a bit surprised that Mokuba gave his shares to Seto, right? Because it is interesting to the idea that they felt like they accidentally screwed up and didn't have enough. Like they thought they had bought enough, but no, they didn't. They didn't actually do so, right? Because they need 51% of the company, right? Well, the funny thing is that I do get Lecter's point, right? I kind of do, but at the same time, it's like no, no. There is a such thing as making mistakes, right? Because again, you're making Seto sound like this grand manipulative person who plans everything 20,000 moves ahead. Yet he's been beaten out by multiple people, like Pegasus, just to name one example, right? Pegasus beat him, even in the business sense, right? And I don't know. This whole episode is trying to paint Seto in a negative light, or at least to gray him out a bit, right? But the thing is that there's two big problems that make me like not able to buy it really. First is the obvious, the source. This is coming from the Big Five, who were dumbasses and assholes, and Noah, who we know nothing about and seems to, well, worship one of the most evil fuckwits in the entirety of Yu-Gi-Oh. Like, seriously. Unless you want to go broad with something like the Light of Destruction being the most evil thing in the entirety of Yu-Gi-Oh, or even maybe Dawn Thousand. I mean that is a possibility. I've never really watched Zale all the way through. Well, okay. I'll, let me use my own terminology. I haven't watched Zexel all the way through, and Zale I haven't watched at all outside of bits and pieces. So I guess it works regardless of what phrase I use, doesn't it? Whatever. Point is that with the possible exception of Dawn Thousand, yeah, the most evil villain in the entire setting, in the entirety of the Gallop animes, is Gozaburo Kaiba. You're not going to convince me otherwise. No, not even Zork. Okay, Zork is a demon, being of darkness, whatever. Depending on which version you watch, he may or may not be the creator of the Shadow Realm. Actually, what's funny is that I actually have a point to discuss about that when we actually get to him. By the way, when Zork is revealed and he makes that statement, he went, "I created the Shadow Realm," because Zork says that point blank in the dub. When we get there, I'm actually going to talk about a headcanon about that. And it actually allows those Zork and the actual entity Night Shroud to exist simultaneously. But again, we'll save that for Dawn of the Duel. You know, we still got to get through all this other stupid shit first. But what's funny about But what's funny about but that's the whole reason. The first reason is it's really fucking suspect, and the second reason is it should have been pretty obvious that it was an act because of how much Seto has consistently cared about Mokuba. Yes, you can say that he manipulated Mokuba's feelings, and that is true to an extent. I'm not trying to say that Kaiba is squeaky clean. He's never been squeaky clean. Squeaky clean. I mean, come on. On, you know? He's always been a bit of a dick. But the thing is that to say that he doesn't care about Mokuba, that Mokuba is just one of his pawns, is probably the stupidest fucking thing I have ever heard. Is he willing to, manipulate Mokuba? Yes. Is he willing to, use Mokuba's loyalty to him? Yes. But, yeah, no. You're not going to sit there and tell me you've never cashed in a favor with a friend. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I've never done that. Because I do it all the goddamn time. In fact, when I chop off this video, I gotta go do that again. But there's a difference. If he was truly just seeing Mokuba as a pawn, Mokuba wouldn't get anything. Mokuba effectively will become the vice president of Kaiba Corp. If he isn't already, I don't remember, but effectively, either as of now or very quickly in the future, Mokuba is going to be the vice president of Kaiba Corp. Effectively. Mokuba wields a large amount of power. At bare minimum, I know he's vice president by the time we get to Grand Championship. At that point, forgive me for the sniffling, I'm still recovering from a cold, by the way. By that point, Mokuba will be vice president, and he will have immense political power within Kaiba Corp itself. So, there you go. The other thing that pisses me off about it, too, is that Noah in the sub says, "Oh, does Seto trust you?" Yes, he fucking does! Do you know how much power Mokuba has even now within Kaiba Corp, Noah? You seem to know everything else about Seto's life. Do you not know this? Now, I know that's a manipulation tactic, but at the same time, it's like, Noah, get your fucking head out of your ass and fuck off. This is why I say I don't like Noah as a villain. He thinks he's this manipulative, super smart art villain, which I usually care about. I usually love. But this fucker thinks he's Sao Lee when he's actually Gilbert. Gilbert, I forget the last name. Give me a moment. Give me one quick moment. This will not take me long. Stein. Gilbert. Noah thinks he's Sao Lee when he's Gilbert fucking Stein. Okay, maybe not quite that low tier, but still, Now you might be thinking, those that know Trails, you might be like, well, maybe Campanella. No. Campanella would fucking run circles around Noah. I'm sorry. Campanella is mischievous, but he's not dumb. Noah is fucking dumb. In a lot of cases, But I digress. So I guess we'll go ahead and we'll talk about the backstory now, since I've already dived into it. So Gosaburo basically presents a present on Seto's birthday. In the dub, it is $10 million, which is funny because that's more than what Seto gets. Kaiba gets more than what Seto gets, if you understand the distinction. So, in the sub, Gosaburo gives less money than in the dub because 1 billion yen is what he gives Seto. Excuse me. 1 billion yen is what Gosaburo gives Seto in the dub, or in the sub, excuse me. Whereas it's $10 million in the in the dub, right? I actually went to to the website I like to use for currency conversion, and apparently 1 billion yen. Now, obviously, this is in today money, but in today money, that would be basically 7.9 million, right? Now, in today money, Gosaburo would be a billionaire, so actually this still tracks. 7 million is a drop in the goddamn bucket compared to what Gosaburo would have, right? The challenge is for Seto to gain 100 times that in the sub, whereas in the dub it's 10 times. Which is unrealistic in the dub that he would get that back in one go. It's heavily implied in the sub because of the way they structure it that he basically bought multiple companies to make up the money. Effectively, right? So, of course, Lecter Daimon is helping out with all that. Also, yeah, that is definitely Seto's ruthlessness coming into play. Because, yeah, it starts right there. Then, and of course, manipulate Mokuba. You told us Mokuba was the one leaking information to Gosaburo, but it was you. Who Mokuba gave up his shares, yada 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 yada, right? There is I base it, and then of course that drives Gosaburo to his death or has Gosaburo run away, depending on the version you watch. In the sub, he runs. In the dub, he dies, which makes me think that the actual big villain of this thing is something else entirely. But let's not touch on that until until um two more duels happen. 3 if you count that one being split into two. You know. So I guess I'm ready to talk about the duel itself now because I don't really have much to say about the backstory. It tries to paint Seto as a dick. Doesn't work. Not in the way that not in the way the writing is intending it to work. I should be more clear about that. You know. So then Kaiba chases after Nesbit on the motorcycle to try and get Mokuba back, but he runs into Lecter, and they duel. Now, in Damon has an interesting point in the sub. The God cards are banned. I kind of like the idea that the god card, there's no data on the god cards. Or it's like the point in which, it, like the point in which the big five were beamed in, the god cards were not registered because they had not been utilized yet within the system. Which I know doesn't make too much sense, but since they don't really use the god cards in any capacity in this duel, in these duels, there you go, right? Which actually would be a nice little thing to piss off Merrick, like, you saying I can't destroy you with raw, rah, 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 rah. Or maybe he would find that interesting. Who knows? That could be an angle you could have explored. But no, Merrick's just quietly sitting in the ship right now. Wait, why? Whatever. Anyways, so some new monsters are introduced during this duel. I really like some interesting cards that I've always actually kind of liked. Spear Dragon, one of my personal favorites. It's similar to Goblin Attack Force, but with a piercing effect and 1900 instead of 2300 attack. So cool. Oh, and same shift into defense with 0 defense kind of drawback. Then Lecter uses Solemn Wishes, which gives him 500 life points for every draw. His combo effectively is Solemn Wishes to keep replenishing his life points, Life Absorbing Machine to get a refund on some of the life points he pays, and then Ejection Fairy Lily to use those life points he gains in order to boost her attack up to 3,400, because Injection Fairy Lily is one of the most deadly frickin' monsters in the entire thing, which he gets out through Cyberjar. So I was actually wrong. I think I said Cyberjar had, what was that? 3 appearances total? The Bandit, the mind-controlled Bandit Keith duel, the test run, and then the duel that it's going to show up in later. Well, I'm wrong. There's a 4th one right here. I forgot about this duel. So, there you go. Oh, and then Imperial Order also shows up. Why do I not have Imperial Order on this page? Or was it in part 2 it showed up? Oh, in part 2 it showed up to stop Heavy Storm, right. Yeah, Heavy Storm is also the next is also, this is where it finally gets used. It won't get used much, which is so dumb, but whatever. Spirit Rue is how they pronounce it. Now I'm gonna go ahead and just admit I wish they had just called it Spirit Dragon, because Spirit Dragon sounds awesome. It's an awesome name for a monster, So that's cool. Cool. But then and then of course there's Satellite Cannon, which apparently only has attack points when it attacks. Which I'm sensing a trend, because that actually is also how Injection Fairy Lily happens. She only has 3,400 attack points during damage calculation. I kind of like that, admittedly. Hey. But yeah, Imperial Order is also a deadly trap card, by the way. There's a reason why that thing had to get eroded. It literally got banned for years, then eroded, then banned again because the errata didn't actually cripple it, which is hilarious. Also, Kaiba's still trying to use Crush Card, because of course. I know a lot of people like Kaiba using Crush Card to fucking curb stomp his opponents. I don't. I prefer his strength to be in his blue eyes rather than in a cheap fucking bullshit tactic that basically is practically fucking required for this He's practically fucking required for this, for what current Yu-Gi-Oh. The same kind of tactics that would, that modern Yu-Gi-Oh would look at and laugh, sure, but at the same time, it's the same variety of tactics of fuck you, opponent, you don't get to play Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm just gonna sit here and play solitaire because fuck you. That's not a duel. Duel. That is a curb stomp, and I'm sick and fucking tired of curb stomps. Comes to my Yu-Gi-Oh. I really, really, really hate modern Yu-Gi-Oh. Sorry. Anywho, so then the only scene that I prefer in the fucking sub happens because it gets down to the last turn, and Kaiba draws Blue Eyes for victory. Keep both points that the sub bring that this point that are brought. Keep both this and the second point that only the sub brings up about this final moment. By the way, Blue Eyes showing up to finish it, and vanish Ghost of Gosaburo. But that's it for me. I don't really have a lot to talk about this one, but this is definitely a good episode. Definitely a good episode. To be honest with you, I've been thinking about what rank I want to give, what grade I want to give this episode. I think this episode's a B rank. Good episode. It is a good episode, regardless. I don't like the backstory elements, but that is a preference thing, not it actually being bad. Not really. I just think there's a couple of. I think you could have shored up a couple of the weaknesses, and this could have easily been an A rank episode. But still, great duel. Noah even has a line in the sub. Finally, a duel worth watching. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I have to give you that one. I mean, because the Gansley duel was kind of what the fuck. The Taya duel either had creepy pedophile or ice puns. Judge Man was just here. Let's have a cheating asshole. Asshole be a cheap cunt. And of course, Nesbit was. Well, I refer you to the fact that last week was a rant view. Yeah, quite a step up in quality this week. Next week, we have one of the rare standalone episodes of this arc, as we dive into Noah's identity. Look, if you haven't figured out who he is by now, I'm gonna just blow the lid off of it next week and say, fuck it. Till then, Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walkers signing out. Have a good one. See you in the next one, guys. Duel standby.